How's it going, everybody? I'm Jared Poirier, the founder of Galaxy Design, and I am here to bring you guys another season of the 5 series. So if you guys watched the first season of the 5 series, you got some great tips by some of today's top entrepreneurs. But for this season, I wanted to do something a little bit different, guys. For this season, I'm going back to the core of my business, and I'm gonna bring you guys some videos that are all related to design. So for the next 5 Mondays, we're gonna be talking all about graphic design. And for this first video, I actually wanna cover design specifically for print. And now, why did I wanna do a video all about print, guys? Well, it really goes to stories that some of my customers have told me before they actually met me and had access to all of my design knowledge and wisdom. They had quite a hard time perfecting print projects. When it comes to print, there are a lot of little details, a lot of boxes that you have to make sure that you're checking in order to get that print project to come out perfectly the way that you want. And I had some customers telling me, again, before they had access to my knowledge in printing, that they had just a disastrous time trying to get print projects done, and it had cost them a lot of money. So my goal in this video, guys, is to give you guys some tips all about printing, and you can avoid those type of horrible outcomes where you end up wasting a lot of time and money. So we'll get right into it here, guys, with the first tip, and that tip is to always save in PDF. So when it comes to file types, guys, not a lot of people realize that there's actually a hierarchy in file types, especially when it comes to printing. So really the best file type to use is, of course, PDF. The second best would be like PNG, and probably the worst is stuff like JPEGs, and I'll explain why right now. So basically, when it comes to file types, there's 2 types. We categorize them in terms of lossless and lossy file types. So a PDF is lossless, and what does that mean? Well, all it really means is that when you save as PDF, you don't lose any of the data. That's why it's called lossless. If you save as a PNG, you lose a little bit of data, and down to JPEG, you're losing even more. And when you lose data, you lose quality. So make sure that when you're intending to print those designs, that you're actually saving them as PDF. If it helps you guys, if you're more familiar with the audio world, if you're more familiar with audio file types, with audio we have like waves, which are lossless, and we have MP3s, which are lossy. So if you're saving as wave, you're keeping all of the data, you've got the most high quality file possible. With MP3s, it's less. Same thing in printing, guys, but the main thing that you guys need to know is just make sure that if, again, you tend to print, save as PDF. The next thing that we're gonna get into here, guys, is also related to the quality of our images that we're going to be printing. And this one is resolution, guys. This one is DPI. And this is another thing that can sound very jargony and kind of confusing when someone talks about, oh, 300 DPI, 100 DPI. Whatever, it's not really that complicated, really. Let me explain it in a very simple way. And for your purposes, guys, all you really need to know is that you want to be in that 200 to 300 DPI range. Now, what does that mean? So when we're talking about DPI, we're just measuring resolution, and what that stands for is dots per inch. So if you take an inch anywhere on that image and you count the individual pixels in there, you're going to have whatever the number is. If it's 100 DPI, you've got 100 pixels in that inch. I told you it sounds complicated, but it is quite a simple concept. And for your purposes, again, you just want to be printing between 200 and 300 DPI. I have seen some people print below 200 DPI. I don't really think that that's high enough resolution. And I have seen some people, like some crazy photographers, like to print in like 400 or 500 DPI. I think that they're a little bit nuts. The reason why you don't want to go too high with your DPI is that the higher the DPI, of course, the more pixels, the more information. Those are going to be much bigger files. So in order to manage your file size and still have really good quality images, guys, I am, of course, again going to recommend that you print between 200 and 300 DPI. I hope that we have that one pretty firmly established. For the next tip, tip number 3 here, I actually want to talk a little bit about color. We're going to get away from talking about resolution, and we are going to discuss how to get the proper color in your images. And a lot of this has to do with color codes, guys. Here's another thing that not a lot of people know when they're approaching printing. There are actually 2 completely different color codes if we're talking about digital use and printing use. For digital, we have RGB. And then if we're going to be printing, we have CMYK. Now, RGB and CMYK, these are just different ways of combining colors. It's a lot like when you were in grade 1 and you mix the colors together to get the color that you want if you were painting. It's the very same thing when we're showing colors on a monitor or when we're printing. We're just combining various colors to get the spectrum that we want. So with RGB, of course, we have red, green, and blue that we're combining to get all of the colors. And then with CMYK, we are combining, of course, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black to get all of the colors that we want. So just a different way of coding colors, but it is actually really important when it comes to printing, because if you have an RGB image and you try to print that, you might notice that a lot of the colors aren't coming out the way that you want. And this can be especially key just if you want to have a particular look in your picture and you want the colors to look like how they did on that monitor. But it's also incredibly important when we are talking about branding, guys, because a lot of brands, they have a very specific color and they want that on all of their brand literature. They want that on all of their advertisement, and it can't just be green. That's not good enough. It's oftentimes a very specific color of green that you want, and the best way to color match, the best way to get those colors that you want is to use CMYK. So the next thing that I want to get into here, guys, is bleed, and this is a big one. This can be a super frustrating thing to deal with if you don't understand how bleed works. So basically, a lot of the time when we're printing on big sheets of paper that end up getting cut. So when you're making your images, you have to ensure that you actually leave a little bit of extra room for the bleed. So essentially, it can be a bit counterintuitive, because when we're putting a design together, we want to use every bit of that space and we want to have elements all over that space. But again, we have to account for our bleed. So as a rule of thumb, about 1/8 of an inch is standard bleed, so make sure that any really important key elements of your design are within that bleed space. If that's your logo or text or images that you want to have actually included in that design and not have them cut off, make sure that you have an extra 1/8 of an inch of bleed around your entire image. Pretty simple concept, but it's going to save you a lot of headaches. So the next thing that I want to cover here, guys, for number 5, this one isn't really quite as key as some of the others. With the other 4 tips in this video, if you aren't following those rules, you'll probably have something pretty close to a disastrous outcome for your print project. With number 5 here, it's really just a final touch, something that is, really taking care of the details here. And for number 5, I'm going to say that you need to be careful how you select your paper. So the fact is that a lot of colors actually look better when you print them on glossy paper, and some colors look better when you print them on matte paper. So that's the 2 big paper choices that we have when we're printing. We have glossy and matte. If we're doing like really rich colors, like dark blues, dark reds, and really rich blacks, then I would say use glossy. If we've got more pastel colors, like this nice pastel blue shirt that I'm wearing here, then I would say that you can use matte. Again, not as key. It's not like your colors are going to come out totally wrong if you use the wrong paper type, but it's definitely a way to, just have those finishing touches really polished up and really present a professional look. So yeah, guys, that's going to be pretty much it for this video. I hope that you guys really enjoyed it. I hope that you got some great tips here, and I hope that the next time that you guys go to print something that you actually do it exactly right the first time, and that you save yourself some time and save yourself some money. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Next Monday, we will have another episode of the 5 series for you guys. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.